When it was 1 and 2%, it was fantastic.
So that's ideal for a first-time buyer.
And obviously that had the huge boom in terms of the market.
When you get property in your blood.
I don't know, it was a little bit difficult for us because we didn't really know what we wanted.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining the third episode of the First Time Buyer Show. Today we've got a special guest, James Churcher of Churcher Estates. James, thank you very much for joining us. How are we doing?
Very good, Peter. You?
I'm all good, thank you, I'm all good.
Good.
So before we start this podcast, do you want to give a bit of information about yourself and kind of your brief background of where you started before getting into your estate agency industry?
Yeah, absolutely. So started off I suppose right from the very beginning, started off my property journey with my stepfather having a building firm, and from the minute I could carry a bag of sand or cement, I was out on the tools doing that, and it kind of developed from there really more than anything. Eventually he did all the insurance work for the southeast of the country, so he had quite a few tradespeople working for him, and trying to keep the tradespeople busy throughout certain times of the year can get quite difficult. So what we used to do is go out and find properties to develop or put into a portfolio or to flip. So there always had to be a bit of a profit margin in there for it so that we could pay for the guys. That's where it all started from really. When you get property in your blood, I think it's in there forever. It doesn't go away. Yeah. So then throughout my journey, I then moved to the northwest, and I was a senior manager at DFS Furniture with a sales team working for me, customer service team working for me. But retail doesn't always work for kids and family life and everything to go with it. So I made the switch back out again to property. Joined the local estate agent. Was there for 18 months or so, and then set up on our own, and that's where Churcher Estates was born and formed, and that was just over 3 years ago now, and it's going from strength to strength.
Great to hear. Well, it sounds like you've been on a journey of kind of sales your whole life then, which has developed into a estate agency now, and obviously you've set up on your own, so it sounds like everything's going well at the minute in time. But before we go any further into this podcast, because we're going to have people listening, do you want to address to everyone what team you support?
I'm a Tottenham fan for my sins.
Yeah. You've got a Tottenham fan
someone's got to support them, bless them.
What's going on with Tottenham? What is going on?
No idea. Yeah. Well, to be fair, running on 40% of a squad for most of the season, we can't do anything about it, can we? They're trying their best, bless them, but they just need that bit of extra drive and a bit of extra passion, maybe. Maybe I should go and work for them and drive the team on a little bit.
I think we need that. And we won't talk too much about your oppositions, because we have got an Arsenal fan behind the camera here, so we don't want any footage going missing. Yeah, so we'll keep that under wraps here.
Didn't tell me that before I got here.
We'll keep it under wraps. Yeah, so James, current market at the minute in time.
Yep.
Where is it up to? I know obviously a few years ago it took a halt, prices did drop. Are they on the way up now? How's it looking? Is everything on the horizon?
The market is, from certainly from my point of view and our agency's point of view, the market is ticking over nicely. It's steady away. Prices, I would say, are potentially on the rise again slightly. Not stupid amounts, nothing like pre-COVID where they rocketed up overnight, but they certainly are slightly on the rise. There's a lot more competition out there for people, a lot more buyers out there. So yeah, it's all going in the right direction, and it's looking good.
Okay, that's very interesting. Now, talking about the current market, obviously the mortgage rates are still pretty high. They're around the 4.5 to 5%. Do you think the mortgage rates have an impact on the current market at the minute in time, or not?
I think it's having a little bit of an impact. But if I'm being really honest, as a country, we've borrowed free money, next to free money for 10 years plus, and a time had to come when it was no longer free money anymore. When you look at the base rates, they should never have been where they were for such a long period of time. Obviously, this isn't about the economy or anything about that, and that's way over my pay grade. But as far as interest rates goes, I think they'll continue to drop a little bit more, and then, in my opinion, only my opinion, I think they'll level out around about 3.5%, somewhere around there, at some point in the not too distant future. But I do think that interest rates shouldn't be something that stops people from buying a house, particularly first time buyers, which obviously this is kind of potentially more aimed at the. I think if you're a first-time buyer, get on the ladder, get on the market. You could be waiting 5-10 years before the interest rates get back to where they should, where you want them to be. So go for it. Take the plunge. As long as it's affordable for you, make it happen.
I think this gets on to the next point as well. With first-time buyers, they may have heard background noise about the current interest rates. Would you say now is a good time to buy, or should they wait a few years? What advice would you give to them?
For me, if it was my boys, I've got 2 little boys. If it was my boys looking to get on the housing market, looking to get on the property ladder, the housing market, I'd be advising them to get on as soon as you can. As soon as it's physically affordable for you, get on the ladder, because we don't know. We don't have a crystal ball. You could be waiting potentially another 5 years, 10 years before interest rates come back down to where they were. They may never go back down to where they were, and you've let them 10 years, 5 years, 10 years pass you. One thing that I'm kind of conscious of is finding the right place, affordability. As long as that is in the right place for you, get on. You can always remortgage again in a couple of years' time if the prices drop. Remortgage to get the lower rate. You're not held into that for forever.
You can even take some money out of the property when you remortgage as well, especially if the prices go up. So on the next point as well, I think with first-time buyers listening to this here, if you can give them some advice, what is the best way that they can approach an estate agent, especially a veteran one like yourself and of course Gemma? What is the best way they can approach yourselves?
I think for first-time buyers, pick up the phone and talk to us. We're not big evil people, certainly not ourselves at Church Estates. We're a family-run business. It's me and my wife that run the business. We've got a team of girls that work for us. There's 6 girls that work for us. We're all at different ages, different levels, but we are all family-based, and they very much pick up the ethics of what we do. So from our point of view, the best thing to do for anyone is just to pick up the phone and talk to us. Tell us the kind of thing you're looking for. Tell us the kind of budget that you're trying to work to, and just tell us as it is. And genuinely, from that point onwards, we'll get you on the system, and we'll start to try and find your property. And that should be the case with all the agents that are out there. They should all pick up the phone, take your details, and get you trying to get you moving.
Absolutely, and I think in the current market at the minute in time, first-time buyers do make up around 48%. So I'm sure you deal with them a lot. So what is the best part of dealing with a first-time buyer that you find, taking from the start to the finish, all of it? What do you enjoy most? We
love dealing with first-time buyers. Maybe we're a bit too soft, but it's just whatever stage that someone's actually bought a house, it's their first house, handing the keys over to them it's so exciting for them and for us, to be part of their journey right the way through. We sold a house literally 2 days ago, so they accepted an offer, and Jess, who did the viewings for us, she was nearly in tears, bless her, when they got the offer accepted, because they knew how excited they were. And we're just there to hold their hand through the process. That's not in a patronising way. It's first-time buyers, first time you've ever done it. It's just being there to hold their hand, and at the end when you give them their keys over, a big gleaming smile on their face, and they've got all these ideas of what they're going to go and do with the house. It's really exciting.
Of course, and I mean, in first-time buyer buying the first property, this is most likely the most amount of money that they're going to spend in their lifetime, isn't it? So it's so important that you're just with them throughout the whole journey, isn't it? From start to finish, just the whole way as an agent. Yeah,
absolutely. Any questions, any queries, any concerns, we can just be that middle person to cross that bridge, make it as easy as we possibly can for them.
Absolutely. And if we've got a first-time buyer who's walking to Churches Estates, can give them some advice. What would the first impressions be? How could they impress you walking as a first-time buyer?
I think, as you've said already, it's close to 50% of the market is first-time buyers. I think coming to the estate agents to start with is come prepared. Come if you're being serious about wanting to buy a property, get everything in place, come through the door with it all good to go. Have your mortgage in principle there, have proof of funds in place, tell us what you're looking for, and at that point we can see you're serious at that point, and let us set about trying to find you the right place, with all that, knowing that when we pick up the phone to one of our vendors that we're putting you through the front door, you are good to go.
Absolutely. And in terms of your source of funds, your proof of deposit, how does that look like? What do they need? Do they need to show you 1 month bank statement with the deposit available, or does it need to be 6 months? Because when we're carrying out our due diligence, it usually has to be around 6 months so we can track all the payments. How is it for an estate agent?
For an estate agent, we just need to see that you've got the money in the bank. So we don't need to go, not like, you know, a conveyancer needs to go through it all to make sure that the, you know, for anti-money laundering, etc., and for affordability side of it, for your mortgage advisors, we don't need to do all of that side of things. We just literally need to see that you've got the amount of money in the bank, so that when we phone up a vendor and say they've put an offer forward, they've got their £15,000 deposit is in place, and we've got the mortgage in principle for the remaining balance. That's what we need to see, and that is good enough for you to be able to put an offer forward on the property. What happens after that point, and where the money came from, and why it's in your account, and what you spend your money on, that's for the mortgage advisor, etc., to check on the affordability.
Absolutely. You also mentioned there a phrase, mortgage in principle. How important is it when a first-time buyer is coming to you to look serious? Is it that they have a mortgage in principle in place? Is it very important? It's
extremely important to have the mortgage in principle in place. It means that you are a proceedable buyer at that amount of money. So having that piece of paper in place just shows us and the vendor for the property that you are good to go and that you can afford it, so that we are putting across a legitimate offer.
And if you can also sum it up as a whole for them, you know, to come across as a serious person going into your branch to look at potentially purchasing their first property, would you say, you know, get there early, punctuality, suit, tracksuit? What would you say to you? Would you say get there nice and early? What would it be?
Being really honest, from my point of view, I don't need to see people coming through the door in a suit. I know you've made a super fantastic effort today, Peter. Yeah, absolutely. You don't need to come in dressed like this. You can just come in just in normal clothes. Yeah. For me, yeah, punctuality is great. Obviously, when you say you're coming in, come in. If you say you're going to phone. These are all the little things that, I mean, it's just the basics in life in general, isn't it? Is kind of treating with everyone with a little bit of respect, kind of going forward. You want us as an estate agent to do the job for you, as far as finding the property, sourcing them for you. So obviously getting your information back to us as quick as you possibly can, yeah, really can make a big difference to it. And also it just shows the vendor, you know, if we pick up the phone and talk to the vendor and say, listen, we've got this a great person, they've been all over it, they're really serious about putting an offer forward for your property, it just shows the vendor that you're serious as well. And if you're in competition with 2 or 3 other potential buyers, it just shows them that you're the one for them, because you're not going to mess about through the process.
Of course. And in terms of, you know, you've taken a lot of first-time buyers around, you know, their first potential property that they're going to move into. What would you advise them to look for in the property? You know, if there's cracks or, you know, electrical sockets have changed. When I went around and looked at my first property, I got told to make sure that, you know, your electrical sockets aren't different colours, and, you know, one was coloured in black and the other was grey, so it can look like a dodgy job. So what would you advise to them? Yeah, I mean, looking out for all those kind of things, checking the boiler, how old, and asking those kind of questions. How old is the boiler? How old is the central heating system? You know, has there been any electrical upgrades made? Have a look at the fuse board. Is it something that's been there for 40-50 years, or is it nice, up-to-date, modern fuse board, etc.? These are all the things that I would certainly be looking at if it was me coming round. Cracks, yeah, absolutely. Look into the cracks. Obviously, you're potentially going to get a survey done on the property if you're moving forward with it anyway, so don't let it put you off, because if you get a survey done after the point of putting an offer in, they will highlight if it's anything wrong or not. Sometimes you see cracks in properties and they are purely just down to plasterboard cracking or something along them lines, and it's actually nothing to be concerned over. Equally, it can be something more serious, so look at the survey and see what they recommend. And how important are surveys for a first-time buyer? Do they need to get one, or do they not need to get one? Would you recommend it? I suppose the honest answer to that is it all depends on the property that they're buying. If they're buying a newer property, then I always say to everyone, as far as surveys goes, if it gives you the peace of mind to move forward on it, then definitely get one done. If you're buying an older property, I'd certainly recommend a survey of some sort to obviously give you the peace of mind that you're buying the right place. You're putting your money into a good building. As you've said, the amount of money that they're actually spending for a first-time buyer, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money, and if that means that just gives you that peace of mind, then it's. But also, when you do get a survey done, speak to the surveyor. Don't just read the report. Speak to the surveyor.
because there's a lot of information in there where the surveyors have to write them in certain ways. It doesn't necessarily always translate to what it actually is written on the paperwork, which might sound crazy, but they have to write it in certain ways because RICS stipulate that. But it might not be. It's definitely worth a chat with them. We've got a couple of surveyors that we use, that we recommend, and they're always open to a conversation afterwards to recommend what their thoughts are on it, and they will just give you an open, honest advice on what to do moving forward with it. But yeah, important.
Of course. And what I'd also say as advice is, if you are getting a survey, I'd always recommend speaking to your solicitor or conveyancer about the points involved in it, because we've dealt with them before. We can maybe give you advice on potentially speaking to the agent about if you have to negotiate the prices, or if there's something that can potentially affect the value of the property in the future. So I would recommend that. Now, in terms of you've got a first time buyer, they've viewed the property once, how many times would you recommend them to view the property? What happens if they come 4 times, 5 times? Would you say maybe 3 times? How would you go about it?
I think this is a tricky one, because the competition between first-time buyers at the minute, certainly at the market at the minute, is strong. There's lots of first-time buyers out there that are looking in the market, that are looking at buying. If you've been to see a property and you've fallen in love with it, and you can see it being your first home, act on it sooner rather than later, because there will be someone else coming through the door any minute that may also like it. That doesn't mean to say that you need to sign, sealed, delivered on the first viewing, because I'd never recommend that, because I've got 2 little boys myself, as I've already said, and I'd want them to just take a minute to think about it. But certainly one of the things that you do need to do is, if you're interested, is log your interest with the estate agent, log it with them, and then if they get some other offers coming in on the property, they should keep you updated with regards to other offers that are coming in. We see it time and time again. First time buyers come to see the property, they fall in love with it, they go away, they want to come back with their mum and dad. I understand that completely, because it's exactly what I did when I bought my first house. Went to have a view of it, phoned my dad, can you come and have a look at it with me? Of course you can. The problem is that sometimes your dad or mum isn't available straight away, takes them a week to get to it, and in that time the property's gone. So it's important, just rewinds the clock back to where we say, come in with your paperwork, come in with your proof of funds. But if you think you're going to walk through the door and you like it, bring your parents with you if you're coming to see it.
So just move fast as possible.
Move fast on them, because you could be sat there and miss everything. You could miss everything, and then that leads to frustration, and then you don't like the process of buying a house. And before you know it, you're taking yourself round and round in circles, and you've seen 10 houses and you missed out on all of them, purely based on the fact of not being prepared to go for it. So take your parents with you if you can, or whoever is the trusted person within your family. It might be your brother might be a builder or something along them lines. Take them with you on the first viewing. I know it can be a bit difficult to try and organise everyone, but it's definitely what I'd recommend. And then that gives you the jump start on trying to get ahead of the game with any other offers that come in. And if it is one that you fall in love with, register your interest, potentially log an offer of interest, potentially just log an offer to start with, so at least you are in the game then, rather than being out of the game.
Yeah, and that's a bit of advice I usually give to first time buyers as well, because sometimes you can be pretty cash strapped and may not be able to afford the survey. So another word of advice I give to them is, take a builder with them for the first time they go to view the property. Take a roofer, potentially the roof looks off, and they can also give advice to you how much money will be needed to spend on the property to keep it up to scratch from when they first purchase it.
Yeah, it's great advice.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, in terms of you saying people have to move fast, the first time buyers, they need to move quick, I want to touch about the kind of the offering stages and the negotiation stages. Do first time buyers tend to over offer at the start and go above the asking price because they're nervous, or how should it pitch? Should they start below, or should they just offer the maximum price what it is?
I'm slightly conflicted on the answer, and only because it's such a fine line of putting in a lower offer, it not getting accepted, someone coming in at asking price and going for it. What I believe is that if you go through the front door, how much is that house worth to you? That's always been the phrase. A house is worth whatever someone's willing to pay for it. And so if it works for you, put an offer in for what works for you. If your budget is X amount, put in the offer that's right. Do give yourself a little bit of wiggle room, because vendors will always come back to you, because they will always want more than whatever it is that you're offering. But do give yourself a little bit of wiggle room when it comes to your offer. But again, don't mess about with it. Most of the time, the vendors have had estate agents come out to come and see them to value it in the first place, and it's always been valued in and around that number, because none of us as agents are going to put it on for hundreds of thousands of pounds more than what the actual property's worth. So it's going to be in and around the number. So if that's the number that it's valued at, come as close to that number as you possibly can to give yourself the best chance of getting it.
Absolutely. And also, what can tend to happen as well when you're purchasing a property is bidding wars. That can sometimes happen. So what advice would you give to a first time buyer who's potentially going into a bidding war? You know, would it be don't let your emotions get involved, just stick to the price that you set yourself? What advice would you give to them that you've seen before in bidding wars?
Bidding wars, everyone lets their heart run away with them. So you need to have a cool head on your shoulders for a minute and just have a think about what the house is worth to you. And what you don't want to do is you don't want to miss out on the house for the sake of £1,000, because you've tried to be too cautious, but that equally don't let your heart run away with you and just end up ending 10, 15, 20 grand over the asking price. Put the offer in that is right for you. If we get to kind of best and final offers, put the offer in that's right for you, and then you'll always put your head on your pillow and go to sleep at night not worrying about whether you missed out on the house of your dreams for the sake of £1,000, £100, whatever it might be.
Yeah, so, you know, don't try and maybe save £1,000 when it comes to buying a house, you know what I mean? Maybe if you go into the shopping trying to save a few quid, buy a club card, you can do that, but for your first house, don't try and save £1,000.
There's no club card on a house purchase.
No club cards. Perfect. Okay, so the first time buyers approach you, they found the property they really like, they put an offer in, the seller's accepted it. What's the process after? What do you do after that part then?
Once they've accepted the offer, the next stage from our point of view is the conveyance's details. What vendors really like to see is memorandums of sale getting sent out, and to get the memorandum of sale sent out, we need the conveyance's details. So whoever that is, so it's their solicitor that's acting on their behalf, needs to be instructed. So once we've got those details, so let's say they instruct you, Peter, as a conveyancer, you then send all the details over to ourselves. We then get the conveyance's details from the vendor. We get them on what's called the memorandum of sale, and we send it to both solicitors. At that point, once that's sent out, it's over to the conveyancers to then make contact, do their checks, obviously on the anti-money laundering checks, get the file set up and start sending the contract packs over. And once that's happened, assuming that there's no issues found within the searches or within the conveyancing process, it's your house.
Okay, and then in terms of, you know, conveyancers or solicitors, if you're advising a first-time buyer, without being biased of which ones you work with, what would you say to them? What advice would you give to them? Would you say, you know, check the reviews online, go with this one, we've worked with them previously, they may suit how you were buying your first property with your partner or on your own? What advice would you give to them on picking the conveyancer or solicitor?
It's exactly what you've just said. So for us, if we give out we work with a few solicitors, and what we always say to every one of our buyers and sellers is that we'll get you 3 quotes sent over. That's not because we're biased to any individual, because everyone offers something slightly different. Sometimes it's about costs and they need to get it done for as cheap as they possibly can. Sometimes they want that more personal service and have the handhold through the process, which isn't as cheap, but the conveyance is always available. Sometimes they really love the digital side of things and they want a conveyancer that's really good on the digital front. So for me, it's about finding the person that feels right for that person to do the job moving forwards with it. You'll get a feeling inside when you're talking to someone that knows what they're doing, and to us that's what matters when you're picking your conveyancer. And another thing as well is that don't always go for the cheapest. I've seen it many times before, but don't always go for the cheapest.
Usually if you pay cheap, you pay twice. That's a famous saying, isn't it?
Yeah.
So in terms of as well, obviously the conveyancers acting and they're dealing with the legal side of the transaction, what would, you know, your position be as an estate agent once a property's sold? Are you updating the buyers weekly, or how does it work from your end?
Yeah, so we speak to our buyers and our sellers regularly throughout the whole process, update them. There's certain things that take a little bit longer than others. So for example, once the memorandum of sale is gone, and I know you'll know this, Peter, anyway, but for the viewers, once the memorandum of sale has gone off and the paperwork, the contract pack has all been put in place, the next part of the process is for the solicitors to order the searches. Now they can take kind of 2 to 3 weeks to come back. So at that point, there's no point. We would have updated both buyer and seller that the searches have been ordered. It will take a couple of weeks for the answers to come back through to you. At that point, once they come back through, we then start chasing again. So, but we have to give them the time to do it, and we have a system in place where we phone and we're in contact with them at least at least once a week or 10 days as a max before and then we're constantly chasing, depending on who it is that needs a poke or a prod in the right direction to keep it moving on to the end.
And I think it is so important that when they've just purchased a first property, because on day 2 they've got itchy feet, so they want to know what's going on, and usually when the searches are ordered it can take a few weeks before they come back. So I think it's so important that they've been given that message at the very start that it may be in limbo for a slight bit whilst we're awaiting the searches. So that's a very important message, absolutely. Yeah. Now, just as a kind of a golden rule for first time buyers, what would you say to them? What would the golden rule be to stand out? What would it be?
Once you've had an offer accepted and you've instructed your conveyancer, don't stop chasing them. This would be my golden rule. Because you're a first time buyer, there's a lot of people that just think that the process will happen automatically. The truth is that a lot of conveyancers are dealing with multiple files, and you want your file to constantly be at the top of the list for that conveyancer. So if it was me, I would be keeping in constant contact. What do you need me to do next? What do you need me to do next? Have I got anything missing? Is there anything else that you need from me? And the conveyancers will hate me for saying it, but unfortunately it's the only way to get your house sale through and over the line is to just keep on contacting them, keep on letting them know that you're here if you need anything. What do we need to do next is always the best question to ask. What do you need from us next to keep moving it along? Otherwise you'll find your file will slip to the bottom of the pile, and then it won't be getting chased as often if you just allow the process to happen.
It's so important to get your house in order from the very start, isn't it? Yeah. I shouldn't really say this, but be a pain to your conveyancer. Ask them what. Don't be a pain to me, please.
I was gonna say it, but I knew you wouldn't appreciate it. But the golden
gotta
rule.
Be a pain. You got to ask.
The golden rule is to be the biggest pain in the bum to your conveyancer as you possibly can be, and you'll be amazed how much quicker it will go through the process.
Yes.
So if Peter's taking too long at getting it boxed off,
chase me. Ask me what I need. Don't be afraid. But no, you do need to get everything in order from the start, and I'll openly say that as well. Especially if someone's putting over a £10,000 deposit or or below £5,000, we need bank statements from the very start. So it may take a while for you to go to your bank and actually get the digital statements, because you may need to send it in the post or get an ID organised. We'll need that from the very start. So you have to make sure that you do ask conveyancer or solicitor, what do I need?
One of the, just with you saying that, Peter, interjecting, one of the things that we see time and time again is where the proof of funds is actually coming from and where that money has come from, and has it been signed off by the powers that be that says it's okay for you to use that money. And the amount of house sales that we see get all the way to the end and it's been gifted to them. Well, because it's been gifted to them, they need it to be signed off for by the person. They need to then look into where the money came from their bank. It's not just a simple case of, oh, here's 15 grand, here's 20 grand. It's got to be signed off. I know you know that, but you'll be amazed how many times that holds up a house sale from trying to organise the proof of funds, and a week can turn into 2, 3, 4 weeks very quickly when it comes to stuff like that.
Absolutely. It's so important that if you're getting a gift off your parents or your grandparents, you just report it to your mortgage advisor, or if you're going to the bank directly, you let them know as soon as possible, because I've openly seen it, the cases I've dealt with myself, and we usually have to ask for the source of funds closer towards completion.
Yeah.
But we do ask them at the very start as well to ensure that we do see that there is a stable amount of money going in and out the accounts. But what usually happens is as well, if they end up receiving a gift, we've got to do our due diligence on the gift, or we have to do ID checks. We need to check where that money's originated from. So it's just so important getting that gift sorted straight away. Let your estate agent know, and then you can tell the conveyancer as well at the very start. So
absolutely,
it's so important. Now, what I've been doing in the previous episodes as well is I've been giving a one sentencer to the camera. So if you can give a one sentencer piece of advice to a first time buyer listening to this, what would it be? Fire away.
I think the key to it all for a first time buyer is just be absolutely prepared at every step of the way and have absolutely everything in place that you possibly can. And if you're not sure what you need in place, pick up the phone, talk to us, and we'll be able to help you what you need to have in place to make the whole process a lot easier. I think that'll be the golden rule for me.
James, appreciate that a lot. Thank you very much for joining me for episode 3. Now, for the people listening, where can they find you on social media? Have you got a website? Where can they all find you?
Absolutely, yeah. Website is churcherestates.co.uk. We've got our Instagram, which again is just Churcher Estates, and we're also on Facebook. You can call us. It's 01704 338 451. We're always here to help and guide you along the way. We cover all of Southport, Ormskirk, Burscough, any of the little villages in and around and in between as well. So depending on where you are, please just pick up the phone. If we can't help you, we'll certainly know someone in the area that can help you. So give us a call and tell us what you need.
Perfect. Well, thanks very much again, James, for joining us. Thank you very much for tuning in to episode 3 of the First Time Buyer Show. Remember, I am speaking to professionals who've been in the industry for years. So leave a comment, ask any questions whatsoever that you want to know. And in the second series, I'll be asking the professionals all the comments and how we give you advice. Thank you very much.